Far above the blue and quiet earth, something strange moved in the endless black sky. It was not a star, not a comet, and not a satellite made by human hands. It was a shadow, a collection of enormous ships gliding slowly and silently, almost invisible against the void. These were not human ships. They belonged to an empire from beyond the stars, an empire that had ruled many worlds and crushed many civilizations before. To them, Earth was nothing more than another weak planet to be conquered and harvested. The alien fleet was vast, each ship larger than the tallest buildings on Earth, their hulls sharp like blades of darkness, their engines glowing faintly as they pushed forward with a deadly calm. Inside the fleet, the alien commander looked at Earth with cold eyes. To him, Earth was only a prize, another jewel to add to the Empire's crown. He spoke to his officers in a voice full of arrogance. The humans will not resist. They do not have the technology to fight us. They are still children playing with fire while we command the stars. His officers nodded and laughed, certain that this mission would be quick and easy. On Earth, however, things were not as simple as the aliens believed. For weeks now, scientists and military stations had been tracking strange signals from deep space. Radar had picked up faint shadows, patterns that did not match any known natural object. At first, governments thought it was an error, but soon the truth became clear. Something massive was coming. While panic spread quietly through secret channels, the leaders of Earth did not stand idle. The people of Earth had fought countless wars against themselves, and from those wars they had learned, adapted, and built machines that even they did not fully reveal to the public. Hidden deep in space, in orbits that no one ever spoke of, humanity had prepared for this very day. They had always wondered if someone might come. Now that day had arrived. The alien fleet drew closer, unaware that Earth was watching them every second. Satellites tracked their movements. Observatories watched their shadows against the stars. Silent alarms echoed in underground bases, and hidden command centers went dark as they prepared to act. Still, the world above remained calm, ordinary people walking the streets with no idea that death was approaching from the sky. In classrooms, children studied books. In cities, traffic filled the roads. On farms, the sun warmed the fields. And above it all, a fleet of death moved slowly toward the planet, confident that its target was blind and weak. The alien commander ordered his fleet into formation. Warships stretched like a steel wall across the void. The commander smiled as Earth grew larger in his view. Soon, he whispered, this world will kneel before the Empire. His crew cheered, for they believed the battle was already won. But they did not know the secret truth. They did not know that humanity was not blind. They did not know that humans were not waiting to surrender. They did not know that Earth had teeth sharp enough to bite back. In an underground bunker, a human general stood before a large screen, his eyes locked on the approaching fleet. His voice was steady as he spoke to his officers. They are here, he said. They believe we are weak. They believe we will fall without a fight. They are wrong. The officers nodded, their faces hard with determination. Around them, the hum of hidden machines filled the air. Maps of orbiting satellites and defense grids glowed on the screens. Orders spread silently through encrypted channels. Across the world, secret defense systems woke from their slumber. Silent drones activated, orbital weapons armed themselves, and the first pieces of humanity's great trap began to move. Far above, the aliens kept coming, their confidence unshaken. They had seen so many weak worlds fall, so many species crushed beneath their empire. To them, Earth was nothing but the next name on a long list of victims. They did not see the warning signs. They did not hear the quiet thunder building beneath the surface of the earth. They did not sense the hidden eyes that followed their every move. The alien commander leaned back in his chair, watching the blue planet fill his view. "Prepare for descent," he said calmly. "We will strike soon." His words carried the weight of doom, but not for the humans, as he believed. Instead, those words were the beginning of his own end. Earth was silent. The people above lived their normal lives, not knowing their fate balanced on the edge of a blade. But beneath the silence, humanity waited. Humanity was ready. The trap was set. The fleet would soon learn the truth. The shadow in the sky was not approaching prey. It was flying straight into the jaws of a hunter. The alien fleet moved closer to Earth, their dark hulls shining faintly under the light of the distant sun. Inside the command ship, the atmosphere was calm and filled with quiet confidence. The commander of the fleet, a tall and scaled figure with piercing golden eyes, stood before a vast window, staring at the small blue planet that hung below. To him, this mission was not war. It was not conquest. It was simply routine. His empire had crushed countless worlds before this one, and each had fallen with little effort. Primitive species had begged for mercy. Some had tried to resist, but their weapons were laughable compared to the Empire's technology. Earth would be no different, he believed. The commander turned to his officers, his voice cold and full of pride. "This world does not even know what true power is," he said. "Their weapons are toys. Their armies are untrained. They have no fleets, no interstellar reach, no allies. They live in ignorance, unaware of the empire that rules the stars. When we descend, they will tremble. When we speak, they will bow. This is not war, my brothers. This is harvest." The officers nodded, their faces lit with cruel smiles. Some laughed openly, mocking the humans they had never even met. "They are a young species," one officer sneered. "Still divided by nations, still fighting among themselves. They do not deserve this planet. They do not deserve the stars." Another officer added, "We will break their leaders, enslave their people, and strip their world of its resources. By the time we are finished, Earth will be nothing but a memory." The room filled with dark laughter. Their arrogance was like a shield, blinding them to the danger that waited unseen. For them, the story had already been written. The Empire always won. The commander ordered a status report. One by one, the officers spoke. "Fleet is in perfect formation," reported the navigation officer. "Weapons charged and ready. Shields stable at full capacity." Another officer raised his head. "Planetary scans show no orbital defenses. Their satellites are primitive, mostly for communication and weather. No weapons detected." A wave of amusement spread through the command bridge. "Pathetic," muttered one of the soldiers at his station. "They don't even know we're here." The commander smiled faintly, his sharp teeth glinting in the low light. "Excellent. Then our task will be simple. Prepare the landing ships. We will break their defenses in one strike, and the planet will belong to the Empire." But far below on Earth, deep inside hidden bunkers, humans listened and watched. They had detected the fleet, even if the aliens believed otherwise. Every move the Empire made was being tracked. Yet humanity stayed silent, letting the aliens believe their lie. The aliens, blind in their pride, saw only what they wanted to see. The commander turned his gaze back to Earth. From space, the planet looked beautiful, wrapped in white clouds and blue oceans. To him, it was treasure, untouched and waiting to be claimed. "Imagine," he said softly, "the riches this world holds. Water, forests, minerals, food, and slaves. Billions of slaves. Enough to fuel the Empire's expansion for centuries. This planet is a gift from the stars to us." His officers murmured in agreement. Some dreamed of glory. Others dreamed of wealth. None considered the possibility of failure. None thought about what would happen if the humans were not as weak as they believed. In the barracks of the fleet, alien soldiers prepared for the invasion. They polished their weapons, checked their armor, and joked with each other. For them, this mission was easy work, almost boring. Many had fought in long wars against species that had put up resistance. But Earth was nothing. The soldiers imagined cities burning, human armies scattering in terror, leaders kneeling in surrender. They imagined parades of slaves, humans chained and broken, serving the Empire as all conquered races had done before. Their laughter filled the halls of the ships, loud and careless. On the command bridge, a young officer asked the commander a question. "Do you think, sir, that the humans will fight back?" The commander gave him a slow and deliberate look. His golden eyes glowed with amusement. "They may try," he said, "but resistance will be useless. Their weapons will bounce off our shields. Their armies will fall in hours. Their governments will collapse in days. By the end of this cycle, this world will not even remember the word freedom. They will kneel, as all others have knelt before the Empire." His voice carried the weight of certainty. Around him, every officer and soldier believed his words. They had seen this story play out too many times before. And so their confidence grew, as unshakable as the stars. Yet above Earth, in silent orbits hidden from the alien eyes, human weapons were waiting. Advanced systems designed in secret hummed with energy. Invisible drones shifted in position. Satellites disguised as simple communication machines quietly armed themselves. Humanity's trap was nearly complete. But the aliens, wrapped in arrogance, saw nothing. The commander raised his hand and gave the order. "Bring the fleet into orbit. Prepare the first wave of landing craft. Soon, Earth will belong to us." Engines flared across the fleet as the giant ships shifted, moving into attack formation. On Earth, hidden bases lit up with activity, screens glowing, officers watching closely. The humans did not move yet. They waited. They let the Empire step deeper into the snare. The alien fleet spread out, their massive shadows covering the stars. To any observer on Earth's surface, they were still invisible, lost in the darkness of space. But they were there, closer with every second. The commander clasped his hands behind his back and spoke with pride. "Let this world serve as a lesson to others. The Empire is eternal. Resistance is hopeless. When we strike, no one survives." His words echoed across the bridge, filling the crew with certainty. Their confidence was so strong it almost seemed like truth. But in that confidence lay their weakness. They had underestimated the humans. They had misread the silence of Earth. They thought they were the hunters, but in truth, they were walking into the jaws of something far more dangerous. And as the fleet moved into orbit, as the final preparations for invasion began, the humans below waited with steady hands and calm eyes. The Empire believed victory was already theirs. But the first blow had not yet been struck. And when it came, the galaxy would never forget what humanity could do. On Earth, the world above remained calm, but deep underground in hidden chambers, humanity's greatest secret waited in silence. Generals stood before giant screens, their faces hard as they watched the alien fleet glide into orbit. They had expected this day for many years. The signals from deep space had been warnings, hints of civilizations beyond Earth, and though governments never told the public, they had prepared. They had prepared not with massive fleets of ships like the aliens, but with something far more clever. For centuries, humans had fought wars against themselves, and those wars had taught them painful lessons. Nations rose and fell. Weapons became stronger, faster, and smarter. Humanity learned that strength was not always about size or power. True strength was in strategy, in patience, in the ability to strike when the enemy least expected. And so Earth had built weapons not to match the Empire ship for ship, but to defeat them in ways they could not imagine. Orbiting high above, satellites that looked like simple machines for weather and communication were not what they seemed. Inside their cores slept advanced defense systems, rail cannons that could fire projectiles faster than light, beams that could pierce the strongest shield, and drones that could unfold like swarms of steel wasps, deadly and precise. Hidden bases beneath mountains held control stations, silent operators waiting for the command to awaken the sky. The aliens, proud and arrogant, saw none of this. To them, the Earth was undefended, weak, and blind. They did not know that every move they made was being tracked, every signal they sent was being intercepted, every ship in their fleet was already marked as a target. In one bunker, a general leaned over the table, his hand resting on a glowing map that displayed the alien positions. His voice was calm but filled with steel. "They think we are blind," he said. "They think we are weak. But we have eyes everywhere. We have teeth they cannot see. When they descend, they will not conquer. They will vanish." His officers nodded, their hands steady on the consoles. 4 years they had waited in silence, building in secret, testing in shadows. Now their patience would bear fruit. Far above, the alien fleet moved without caution, spreading into attack formation. Their arrogance blinded them so fully that not one sensor scanned deeper than Earth's ordinary signals. Their commander believed humanity had nothing to hide, but he was wrong. Humanity had hidden everything. In the dark of space, a quiet hum began as Earth's defenses woke. A drone stirred, unfolding its sharp wings like an insect opening for flight. It drifted out of shadow, its body reflecting nothing, invisible to alien eyes. Then another drone moved, and another, until a swarm spread like a silent cloud around the planet. The trap was taking shape. In hidden silos across continents, powerful rail weapons locked onto their marks. In underground chambers, energy systems glowed brighter, charging for the first time in years. Generals exchanged short, firm words. Phase 1 ready. Phase 2 in position. Awaiting authorization. And still the people above lived their lives in peace, unaware that a battle of extinction was moments away. The aliens laughed in their ships, mocking the humans, planning the division of Earth's resources, planning the enslavement of its billions. Their commander believed he was unstoppable. "Prepare the first strike on their defenses," he ordered. "Destroy their cities. Burn their armies. Leave them broken." His voice was proud, confident, certain. But he did not know that with those words he had already sealed his fate. On Earth, the order was given. A single command passed through encrypted channels, unlocking the sky. The hidden network came alive. One by one, invisible systems targeted the alien fleet. No alarms sounded on the alien ships, no warning lights flashed. To them, the void was empty, safe. Yet unseen, their destruction was already written. The humans did not rush. They did not fire yet. They waited, letting the aliens drift closer, letting their arrogance grow deeper, letting them step fully into the trap. In the bunker, the general's voice was calm. "Patience," he said. "Let them believe. Let them feel victory is already theirs. And then we will strike." The officers obeyed, their fingers hovering over the controls, their eyes fixed on the screens that showed alien movements. Above them, drones hovered in silence, satellites rotated into firing positions, weapons charged until they hummed with restrained fury. Humanity had built these machines not only with science, but with a deep understanding of war. The aliens had won their battles through overwhelming power, through fear and size. But humans had learned something different. They had learned that the smallest weapon, placed in the right moment, could change history. They had learned to fight against greater foes with cunning, to hide strength until the last moment, and then to strike with devastating force. This was humanity's true weapon, the art of war written in patience, secrecy, and timing. The Empire did not understand this. They would not understand until it was too late. The commander of the fleet stood proudly, staring at Earth as if it were already his. He gave the order to prepare the landing ships, unaware that every one of them was already marked for destruction. His officers spoke of riches, of slaves, of glory, never realizing that in a few moments their fleet would be torn apart in silence. On Earth, the general finally gave the command. His voice was quiet but sharp, carrying the weight of history. Phase 1, engage. And with those words, humanity's secret weapon awoke fully. In the black of space, the first invisible strike was made ready. The Empire had come to conquer. They had come with pride, with arrogance, with certainty. But what they did not know, what they could not imagine, was that they had flown straight into the jaws of something far stronger than they had ever faced. Humanity was ready. Humanity was waiting. And the Empire's confidence was about to turn into terror. The alien fleet drifted closer to Earth, their vast warships glowing faintly in the darkness of space, their weapons armed, their confidence unbroken. On the flagship, the commander raised his hand and gave the final order. "Begin descent," he said, his golden eyes fixed on the planet below. Crews rushed to prepare the landing ships, soldiers tightened their armor, and officers barked commands, certain that their victory was moments away. But far beneath their notice, Earth had already chosen its moment. In underground bunkers and hidden stations, humanity's trap was ready. Generals stood silent, their eyes fixed on glowing screens that displayed the alien fleet in sharp detail. No one spoke, no one moved, until at last the general in command gave the signal. His voice was calm, almost cold. "Phase 1. Fire." The order rippled through the hidden network, and in an instant the sky came alive. Satellites disguised as harmless machines shifted, revealing their true purpose. Invisible drones swarmed forward like shadows breaking apart, their wings slicing silently through the void. Energy beams built in silence for years unleashed their fury. And before the alien fleet could even react, their destruction began. The first warship vanished in a blinding flash, its shields torn apart as if they were nothing, its hull shattered into molten fragments that scattered into the blackness. On the flagship, alarms screamed. Officers leapt to their feet, confusion spreading like fire. "What happened?" one shouted. "Enemy attack detected," cried another. The commander's golden eyes widened as he stared at the screens. "Impossible," he hissed. "There are no defenses on this planet. There cannot be." But even as he spoke, another of his warships exploded, ripped apart by an invisible strike. And then, another. In less than a minute, 5 ships were gone, erased from existence before they had even drawn their weapons. Panic spread through the fleet. Crews shouted over each other, soldiers stumbled as their ships shook with violent tremors. "Shields are failing," cried one officer. "We cannot detect the source of fire." The commander snarled, his pride cracking into fear. "Activate all sensors. Return fire." But there was nothing to fire at. The humans were ghosts, invisible in the void, striking from places the aliens could not see. Another ship broke apart in silence, its wreckage spinning into the darkness, its crew vanishing with it. For the first time, the Empire's soldiers felt something they had never felt before: helplessness. The commander slammed his fist against the console, his voice shaking with rage. "Find them! Find the enemy!" But no answer came, only more screams as ship after ship fell. On Earth, in the underground bunker, the general stood tall, his eyes steady. Around him his officers worked with precision, voices sharp and calm. "Target locked. Fire complete. Enemy vessel destroyed. Drone swarm is advancing. Next targets engaged. Rail cannon charging. Impact in 3, 2, 1. Another alien warship exploded in silence, its fireball reflecting against the glass of the flagship. The commander watched in disbelief as his once proud fleet was reduced to wreckage in mere minutes. "This cannot be," he whispered, his voice shaking. "They are primitives. They cannot do this." But reality gave no mercy. The humans had planned, prepared, and hidden their strength, and now that strength was unleashed. A squadron of alien fighters tried to break formation, darting forward in a desperate attempt to find the source of the attacks. But before they could travel even a few kilometers, drones swarmed them. Sleek, black, invisible to sensors, the drones cut through the fighters like knives through paper. One by one, the alien ships were erased, their pilots silenced before they even knew what had hit them. Fear spread across the fleet like poison. Officers shouted, soldiers panicked, and the commander could feel the tide turning against him. His arrogance, his certainty, was slipping away, replaced with the cold truth that they were not the hunters here. They were the prey. "Retreat!" one officer cried, his voice breaking. "We must fall back." But the commander's pride was strong, even as his fleet collapsed. He bared his teeth and growled. "No. We are the Empire. We do not run. We will crush them." Yet even as he spoke, another explosion tore through the fleet, the light so bright it blinded the bridge for a moment. The humans had not only planned their strike, they had planned the timing. Each attack hit with precision, each weapon firing at the exact moment to cause maximum destruction. Earth's trap was not simply a wall of firepower. It was a web, a perfect design meant to break the Empire's spirit before they even understood what was happening. And it was working. Within the first 10 minutes, nearly a third of the alien fleet was gone. Their mighty shields, their advanced technology, all of it was useless against weapons they could not even detect. The commander gripped the edge of his console, his claws cutting into the metal as he glared at the planet below. "You dare," he snarled. "You dare defy the Empire." But his words meant nothing to the humans, who watched calmly as their plan unfolded. In the bunker, the general gave another order. Phase 2. Swarm release. Across the orbit, thousands of drones activated at once. They moved like a storm, a living cloud of steel, rushing at the alien ships with terrifying speed. The aliens fired blindly, weapons flashing into empty space, but they hit nothing. The drones weaved between their shots, invisible to their targeting systems. And then they struck. Alien ships broke apart in silence, torn open by the relentless swarm. Fireballs lit the black sky one after another, until the once proud Empire fleet looked less like an armada and more like scattered wreckage drifting in space. On the flagship, fear had turned to chaos. Officers screamed over alarms, soldiers begged for orders, and the commander stood frozen, his pride shattering as he watched his Empire's strength fall to pieces. In that moment, for the first time in his life, he understood that they had made a mistake. Earth was not weak. Humanity was not blind. This planet was not prey. And the fleet had flown straight into the jaws of something that had been waiting for them all along. On Earth, the general's voice was calm, almost cold. "Keep firing," he said. "Do not let a single one escape." And in the sky above, the trap closed tighter, the first strike turning into a storm of fire that would change the fate of both species forever. The silence of space was broken only by fire and ruin. Where once the alien fleet had stretched like a wall of steel and light, now wreckage drifted, burning, twisting slowly into the black void. On the flagship, chaos reigned. Alarms screamed, lights flickered, officers shouted in panic as explosions flashed across their screens. The commander stood frozen for a moment, his golden eyes wide with disbelief. Never in his long career had he seen the Empire lose so quickly, so completely, without even striking back. Pride still burned in him, but fear had begun to take hold. He slammed his clawed hand against the console and roared for order. "Hold formation. Shields to maximum. Return fire." But the crew could only look at him in despair. "Shields are collapsing, Commander," cried one officer, his voice cracking. "We cannot detect the enemy. They strike from shadows we cannot see." Another shouted, "Half the fleet is gone. We are blind. We are dying out here." The commander's teeth bared in a snarl. He would not accept weakness, not from his crew, not from himself. "We are the Empire," he roared. "We do not break. We do not run. Fight them." But even as he shouted, another ship exploded, its image vanishing from the screen as flames consumed it. The bridge shook violently as debris struck the flagship, and sparks rained down from broken wires above. Soldiers clung to their stations, fear written across every face. They were trained to conquer, not to survive against an enemy that fought like a phantom. Their weapons were useless, their sensors blinded, their mighty shields crumbling like paper against the hidden fury of Earth's defenses. For the first time in their lives, they were powerless. In the barracks, soldiers who had once laughed at the thought of human resistance now sat trembling, their hands gripping their rifles as if holding them tighter would make a difference. Whispers spread through the ranks. "They see us, but we cannot see them. They destroy us before we even know where to aim. This is not war. This is slaughter." Fear moved like fire, consuming discipline, burning away loyalty to the commander's pride. Even the officers who once mocked the humans now looked pale, their confidence shattered. On the flagship's bridge, a young officer dared to speak. "Commander, we cannot win this. We must retreat before all is lost." The commander's golden eyes burned with fury. and for a moment he seemed ready to kill the officer for such words. But deep inside he knew it was true. Every second they stayed, another ship was destroyed. Every order he gave led only to more chaos. The enemy was not an enemy they could fight. It was something else, something that turned their strength into weakness, something that made the Empire look like fools. Still, pride chained him. "No retreat," he growled, though the fear in his voice betrayed him. "We will fight to the last." But the fleet was no longer listening. Across the armada, ships broke formation, captains giving desperate orders to flee, engines flaring as they tried to escape the killing field. Yet escape was no mercy. Humanity had planned for this. As soon as the first ships tried to break away, the drones followed, fast as shadows, cutting them down before they could run. Fireballs lit the darkness as retreat turned into massacre. "They are everywhere," screamed a voice over the comms. "Invisible, striking from every side." Another voice cried out, full of terror. "We cannot stop them. We cannot stop." The voice cut off as the ship was destroyed, the signal vanishing in static. The commander slammed his fists against the console, his rage boiling over. "Cowards! Hold your ground," he roared. But his words fell on deaf ears. His officers were pale, their hands shaking, their voices weak. Some begged him to retreat. Some simply stared in silence, unable to process the horror unfolding around them. For centuries, the Empire had known nothing but victory. But now, in the skies above Earth, their invincible fleet was reduced to ashes, and for the first time, they felt the weight of true defeat. The commander's mind raced. How could this be? How could a primitive world shatter the Empire's pride in minutes? Were the humans allied with another power? Did they have help from a greater empire? No, he realized with horror. This was not someone else's doing. This was humanity. Alone, in secret, they had prepared for the day the stars brought invaders. And now they had unleashed their fury. The bridge shook again, harder this time, as another strike tore through the fleet. Smoke filled the air, sparks showered from the walls, and the crew covered their faces as the lights flickered and dimmed. "Hull damage," cried an officer. "Sections 5 through 9 are collapsing." "Shields down to 20%, shouted another. The commander's claws dug into the metal console, his pride fighting against the fear clawing at his chest. He looked at the planet below, still calm, still silent, its blue oceans and white clouds hiding the death that came from above. He realized then that Earth was not the victim. Earth was the predator, and he had brought his fleet straight into its jaws. Panic spread fully now, no longer whispers but screams. Soldiers abandoned their posts, some running for escape pods, others frozen in fear. The commander shouted for order, but no one listened. His pride meant nothing in the face of destruction. The Empire's arrogance had led them here, and now that arrogance was burning away in fire and ruin. Another explosion shook the flagship, throwing officers to the ground. The commander fell to his knees, his mind reeling as the screens showed the last images of his dying fleet. Once mighty ships, now nothing but burning wrecks. Soldiers screaming into silence. Officers weeping as their world collapsed. The Empire's pride was gone. All that remained was fear. On Earth, in the hidden bunker, the general stood calm, watching the chaos unfold. His eyes were steady, his voice cold. "They are breaking," he said. "Keep the pressure. Do not let them breathe." And so the trap tightened further, the storm of drones and weapons tearing apart the fleet without mercy. The humans showed no weakness, no hesitation. They had waited for this day, and now they were writing history with fire. Above, in the dying flagship, the commander lifted his head, his eyes filled with despair. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "What are these humans?" But no answer came, only the sound of his empire falling apart, consumed by the panic that now ruled every heart. The battlefield above Earth was nothing but fire and silence. Once the Empire's fleet had filled the sky with its vast power, now only wreckage drifted, glowing with the heat of destruction. The humans had not given the aliens a chance to fight back, and the Empire's pride had been turned into ash. Yet one ship still stood, the flagship, larger than all the others, its hull scarred by fire but not yet broken. Inside, the commander clung to his pride, his golden eyes burning with a mix of fear and rage. Around him, officers shouted, soldiers trembled, and the bridge shook with every new strike, but he refused to accept defeat. "We are not finished," he growled, his voice low and dangerous. "We are the Empire. We will not fall to these primitives." His words rang hollow, yet his pride forced him forward. The flagship was damaged but not powerless. Its weapons were stronger, its shields thicker, its engines still burning with energy. The commander clenched his claws against the console, his voice sharp. "Gather all remaining power. Charge the primary weapon. We will strike them down in one blow." His officers hesitated, fear in their eyes. "Commander, our shields are almost gone. Our fleet is destroyed. If we stay here, we will be erased like the others." But the commander's pride would not allow retreat. "No," he roared. "We will make our stand. If this planet believes it can defy us, then we will burn it to the ground." His voice silenced the bridge for a moment, and the crew obeyed, though fear lingered in every movement. Across the flagship, power shifted, weapons charged, and the ship prepared for one final strike. On Earth, in the hidden bunker, human generals watched the screens as the flagship glowed brighter. "They are preparing something," one officer said. "Energy levels rising fast." The general's eyes narrowed, his voice calm. "The beast has not fallen yet. They will try to destroy us with their last breath." He turned to his men. "Do not give them the chance." Above, the flagship's primary weapon charged, a massive cannon at its core glowing with deadly light. The commander stood tall, his pride holding him upright even as the bridge around him shook. "Aim for their defenses," he ordered. "If we cannot take this planet, then we will leave nothing behind but fire." His officers obeyed, their voices trembling as they prepared the shot. Weapon charged to 70%, 80, 90. The ship shook again as another human strike ripped through its hull, but still it stood. Sparks rained from the ceiling, smoke filled the air, yet the cannon continued to charge. The commander's golden eyes narrowed, his teeth bared in a snarl. "Fire!" he roared. But just as the weapon reached full power, the humans struck. Invisible drones swarmed the flagship, tearing at its armor, ripping into its weak points. Rail cannons fired from orbit, piercing its shields like paper. Energy beams cut across its surface, explosions blooming across the hull. The flagship trembled violently, the cannon shaking under the assault. "Shields collapsing," an officer cried. "Hull breaches on multiple decks." The commander snarled. "Divert all power to the weapon. Ignore the damage. Fire." But the humans had timed their strike perfectly. Before the weapon could release its fury, a swarm of drones pierced its barrel, detonating deep inside. The energy meant for destruction turned inward, ripping through the flagship's core. A blinding explosion rocked the ship, flames tearing through the bridge. Officers screamed, soldiers fell, alarms blared louder than ever. The commander was thrown to the ground, his body slamming against the console. He forced himself up, his vision blurred, smoke burning his lungs. Around him, his officers were dead or dying, the bridge collapsing piece by piece. Yet still, his pride refused to die. He staggered to his feet, gripping the console with bleeding claws. "This is not the end," he hissed, though his voice shook with despair. Another explosion ripped through the ship, sending sparks raining down. The flagship's engines failed, its hull cracked, and it began to drift helplessly toward Earth's atmosphere. On the planet below, people still walked unaware, but in the bunker, the generals watched closely. "The flagship is failing," one officer said. "It won't survive much longer." The general nodded, his voice calm. "Finish it. Leave no doubt." The order went out, and in orbit, Earth's weapons fired one last time. Beams of light cut through the flagship, tearing it apart. Drones swarmed over it like vultures, striking until nothing was left but fragments. The once mighty vessel of the Empire, symbol of its power, broke apart in silence, fire spreading across its remains until it vanished into the void. Inside the bridge, the commander felt the floor give way beneath him. He fell to his knees, smoke choking his lungs, flames surrounding him. His pride was shattered, his fleet gone, his empire humiliated. In his final moments, he raised his head, staring at the planet below. His golden eyes burned with hate and despair. He whispered one last message into the comms, his voice weak but filled with warning. To the Empire, do not return to this world. Humanity is not prey. Humanity is the hunter. And then the fire consumed him, and the flagship was gone. In the bunker, the general listened as the last signal from the flagship flickered into silence. His face was calm, his eyes steady. "It is done," he said. Around him, the officers exhaled, their bodies relaxing as the tension faded. But none of them smiled. They knew this was only the beginning. Above, the wreckage of the Empire's fleet drifted in silence, a graveyard of arrogance and defeat. Earth had stood against the stars, and Earth had won. But the message sent by the commander would not vanish. Somewhere far away, in the heart of the Empire, his final words would arrive. And when they did, the galaxy would learn the truth, that humanity was no longer a silent world, but a force to be feared. Far away from Earth, deep in the Empire's core systems, silence filled the grand hall of the High Council. The chamber was vast, carved from black stone and lined with glowing banners of the Empire, symbols of strength and control. For centuries this place had been the heart of power, where rulers spoke with pride and arrogance. But today, the hall was filled with unease. At the center, the message from the flagship played again and again. Static, then fire, then the commander's final words. Broken, weak, yet filled with a truth no one in the Empire wanted to hear. Do not return to this world. Humanity is not prey. Humanity is the hunter. The recording ended, and silence followed. The counselors sat frozen, their faces pale, their golden eyes wide. None had ever heard such words from one of their own. The Empire had conquered countless worlds, erased countless species, crushed rebellions without mercy. But never had one of their fleets been destroyed so completely. Never had one of their commanders begged the Empire to stay away. One counselor stood, his voice sharp but shaking. This cannot be real. A primitive world cannot destroy the Empire's fleet. It must be deception, trickery from another power. Another snapped back. Do you think the commander of the fleet would lie as he burned? You saw his face. You heard his voice. He was broken. He was afraid. He spoke the truth. Whispers spread through the chamber. Fear moved among the council like a shadow, eating at their pride. They had lost ships before, battles before, but never like this. This was not defeat in war. This was humiliation. A mighty armada destroyed without landing a single strike. A primitive world turning the Empire into fools. At last, the Supreme Chancellor rose, his long cloak trailing behind him. His voice was calm but heavy, carrying the weight of power. We have underestimated them. Humanity was not what we believed. They hid their strength, they prepared in silence, and when we came, they struck with fury. They destroyed us not because of numbers, but because of planning, because of cunning, because of will. This is dangerous. The counselors murmured in agreement, though fear still lingered in their eyes. One asked, "What shall we do? Send another fleet? Crush them with greater power?" The Chancellor's eyes narrowed, his golden gaze filled with thought. "No," he said coldly. "That is what they expect. If one fleet could not survive, another will fall as well. We must learn. We must wait. Humanity has revealed itself, but we will not throw more ships into their fire. We will study them. We will watch. And when the time comes, we will decide if they are to be destroyed or feared." The council fell into silence again, knowing the truth. Fear had reached the Empire. The message from the commander had planted a seed of doubt, and that seed would grow. The Empire had never known fear of a single world, but now it had begun. Across the stars, rumors spread quickly. Soldiers whispered of the lost fleet, merchants spoke of Earth, a name that now carried weight. Humanity, they said, the world that destroyed the Empire's pride. Meanwhile on Earth, deep within the hidden bunker, the generals gathered once more. The screens showed only wreckage above, burning fragments of what had once been the Empire's fleet. Officers spoke with relief, some smiling, some still shaken. But the general stood in silence, his hands behind his back, his eyes fixed on the stars. "The battle is over," one officer said. "We won." The general shook his head slowly. "No. This was only the beginning. The Empire will not forget. They will not forgive. They will return one day, stronger, smarter, more dangerous. And when they do, we must be ready." The room grew quiet. His words were heavy, but none could deny them. Humanity had shown its power, but that power had also revealed itself to the galaxy. They were no longer hidden, no longer ignored. The Empire now knew of them, and others would know too. Earth was no longer just a blue world among the stars, it was a threat, a hunter among prey. Outside, the world carried on, people unaware of the battle that had just secured their future. Children played in the streets, workers moved through their days, and the sky above seemed peaceful. Yet hidden beneath that peace was fire, a fire humanity had revealed for the first time. And now that fire could not be hidden again. The general turned to his officers. "Send the message. Let them know we are not afraid." One officer hesitated. "What message, sir?" The general's eyes narrowed, his voice calm and firm. "To the stars. To the Empire. To anyone who listens. Tell them Earth is ready. Tell them humanity will never kneel. Tell them if they come, they will find only fire." The officers obeyed, and across the hidden networks, across satellites and signals, the message was sent. A simple transmission, clear and bold, echoing into the stars. "This is Earth. We are not prey. We are the hunters. Come if you dare." The message traveled into the void, carried by waves of light, moving farther with every passing moment. Somewhere, others would hear it. Some would laugh, some would fear, some would prepare. But all would know one thing: humanity had spoken. Back in the bunker, the general stood silently as the signal left Earth. He knew the dangers. He knew the risks. But he also knew the truth. Humanity had been underestimated for too long. No longer. The world was changing. The galaxy was watching. And Earth was ready. Above, the wreckage of the Empire's fleet drifted in silence, a graveyard to their arrogance, a warning to those who thought humanity was weak. In the far future, others would tell the story. The day the Empire came to conquer Earth, and the day humanity turned hunters into prey.